Hello and welcome back to Why This Film, the podcast where we pick a movie from your childhood, rewatch it and then have a chat about it. I'm Emily Slade and welcome back. This week I'm joined by Nureen Lakhani and her chosen film is Lagaan, Once Upon a Time in India, 2001. The IMDb breakdown is: the people of a small village in Victorian India stake their future on a game of cricket against their ruthless British rulers. Enjoy. You watched it so many times before and now you're gonna watch it again. But it's been so many years since you last saw it and now you show it to your friends and they're like, what?
What am I watching?
Why this film?
Hello, Nureen.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
So we are talking about, how do you pronounce it?
Lagaan.
Lagaan.
Yeah, Lagaan.
Okay. And that's a 2001 historical, romantic period. All the different.
Yeah, it's set in 1892, I believe. 1893. Set in a village in Champaner. It is the quintessential love story, but mixed in with a bit of a objective for the character, a couple of obstacles, a couple of villains thrown in for good measure as well.
Yeah.
So it's a childhood film of mine.
Amazing. So did you first watch it in cinemas? Did you first watch it on like VHS?
So I first watched it in the cinema with my mom and my dad.
Oh, amazing.
They play Bollywood cinema in the local Wood Green cinema near us, so that's where I went to watch it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice. Because I'd never even heard of it. The only sort of Bollywood movie that was on my radar was Pride and Prejudice, because I think it had a really massive release out here in the West. But this was like Academy Award winning, and I think it was up for like Oscars and stuff as well. So like, I'm surprised I've never even heard of it, but it's on Netflix, so if you do like the sound of it, you can go and watch it. And it is 4 hours long, which has surprised me.
Yeah, it is really, really epic, but every minute within those 4 hours is a minute to have a reason, and it has so much context.
It does not drag.
Don't let the duration put you off,
Yeah,
guys.
no, it's like Gone with the Wind. Like and is that why it's so long? Is it because it's like a historical epic? So like Bollywood movies aren't usually like 4 hours long.
So your average Bollywood film, I would say, is 3 hours, between 2.5 to 3 hours. But this is also because it includes dancing and singing, which is a real unknown in Western cinema. So I think there's an allowance for that.
Definitely. So I love musical theatre, and I watched a lot of the sort of old musical movies, which obviously everyone bursts into singing and dancing. But as I say, this is more, the tone is very much more like something like almost Titanic or Gone with the Wind. It's like a historical, epic drama period. And then when they started singing for the first time, I'm not going to lie, I was a bit like, oh, what's going on? Because you just don't expect it.
Yeah.
It took 30 seconds before I was like, why doesn't every movie do this? They're so enjoyable. They're such lovely numbers. I also noticed, I don't know if it's the style of the singing, it always sounds like there's just one person singing, but is that just the sort of way the voices, the sort of musical style is?
I think singing within Bollywood films is very much an emotional connection to the scene and the character, hence why they add the song. It's normally to emphasize what the character's going through mentally. So that's probably why you feel it's from a one point of view.
Yeah.
I think that's where that comes from, yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
They're really great. They're really fabulous, like dance numbers and really great catchy songs. They're really good.
The songs in Lagaan, there's one particular song which just still, I'm thinking about it in my mind, and it brings me to tears, because it's the song in which they're waiting for the rain to come.
Yes, yeah, it's like the very first number, and it's so good. It's so like, oh, it's wonderful. So the sort of main plot points of the movie is that we haven't had rain in a while, and we are still in colonialized India.
Correct.
So of course the villains are English, which is great. And they're being taxed by the British.
Yes.
And what's the name of the main villain?
Captain Andrew Russell. Yes.
Yes. And this isn't based in historical accuracy, is it? It didn't really happen.
So I think So the purpose, the meaning of Lagaan is tax, and the fact, yes, it is true that the villagers would give an amount of their the crop growth to the king of Champana in this particular instance, or the king, and the king would give a percentage of that to the British to keep him safe from the other villages. So yes, that is a fact. But in terms of this actual film's context, there is no historical proof or evidence to show that this actually happened with these particular characters' names in question.
Cool. So the basic premise is so exciting, and I had no idea what was going to happen before I went into the movie. And essentially, the villain, Captain Andrew Russell, who's the sort of main captain of this fortress and head of the British in that region, his arrogance gets away with him, and he essentially challenges the village to a cricket match, thinking that they won't have any idea on how to win.
Right, exactly.
Which is hilarious now when you think how fucking excellent India is at cricket. But I did a bit of research, and I think they decidedly set it in a time before cricket had come to India, so it did make sense in that respect. So then it's about all these people coming together and learning the game and like getting better and better and using their own like personal skill sets.
Yes.
To like help them win the game. And it's sort of like a underdog sports movie, as well as a historical epic, as well as a romantic. It's just got absolutely everything in here.
I think it's got greed, it's got anger, it's got jealousy, it's got love, it's got passion, it's got compassion and empathy. Every feeling that we as humans feel at some point in any given situation, those characters, they really, really feel it, and they act it so well.
Every single character is so well defined and so memorable.
Yes.
Like, I knew exactly who everyone was and what their like little shtick was. Like, it was so enjoyable. It was so much fun. So, what did you love about it when you were a kid?
So when I was a child, you watched it you watched it in the sense of when you go and watch a football match. It's like, okay, you have one team, India, versus another team, England. Who do you want to win? And you watch it in a very, very simple context. But when I was young, that film also defined some of the very typical Indian values of forgiveness. When Bhuvan, who is the main character, who takes the decision for the entire village to challenge Captain Russell and say, okay, you know what? We can't give you this tax. You're asking for us to provide you with this extra grain. There's been no rain. You're not being fair with us. And in return, when Andrew's saying to him, well, actually, if you take upon this challenge, I will. It can go 3 ways. It can go 2 ways. Either you'll have no tax for 3 years for you and the rest of the village and the other residing villages in your cantonment, or you'll have to pay 3 years of tax. And everything is on the line for poor Bhuvan.
Yeah, it's so tense.
It's
like,
really intense.
The stakes are so high the entire way through, and I've never been so tense watching a cricket match. Like, even though I kind of knew how it was, I mean, I hoped, obviously, that the, like, Indian side would win, and I assumed they would. But it was still so tense, and they play it so well. It's proper classic, like, almost 90s sports movie. Like,
so then when you're watching it as a child, you're relating to this captain who's got this humongous task to hand, with players who don't necessarily understand the game and are handicapped in some ways as well, either mentally or physically. And you realize as a child when you watch this film, like, anything can truly happen. All the odds were against this team. They didn't understand the sport, and they found a superb support in the form of Eliza, who is Captain Russell's sister, who goes out of her way to help the Indian team win and teach them the game of cricket. But at the same time, she falls in love with Bhuvan, which to her detriment goes against her.
It's so sad. It's so sad at the end when they do a little roundup of where everyone is now, and they say she never married.
Yeah, she never married.
Because she always just had Bhuvan in her heart.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's so sad.
As a child, you learn these very important values because it draws you it draws you as an adult to make better decisions in your life and to ensure that your spirit, your motivation and your determination in life is to just try and succeed, irrespective of the milestones and the hurdles that are up against you.
It's so empowering. Something I found really interesting, especially back in 2001, something that we do not get in Western cinema. It's getting better, but the amount of times men cried in this movie, at anything, like they would just start crying, and it was so lovely to see, and the camaraderie and the brotherhood, and the way that they would like touch and hug each other. It wasn't something that we was getting over in Western cinema at all, and still really aren't because of toxic masculinity.
Yes.
It was such a joy to watch this community of people come together in such a physical way as well as like an emotional way. And is that something that's like common in the culture of Bollywood movies, or is that something that's just sort of like the Fellowship of the Ring is quite good with brotherhood and like crying for men?
I think from a country point of view, when the village was put to task by Captain Russell, and they had to do this in order to fight for the fact that they couldn't afford to pay a triple tax at the end of it. There was no option for the characters at hand. And I think Indian spirit and Indian community thinking is like that as well. If it's something that is going to impact the entire country, village, city, or a group of people, they will definitely work together to come to a resolve.
That's so lovely.
Yeah.
It's so nice. It's such a joy of a movie. It really is. Like, it's so like fun and funny and inspiring and empowering and like it's just genuinely, it's so good. The dancing is so wonderful, and then they do this wonderful thing where they compare it to the British dancing. They go to the fort, and obviously it's the Victorian era, so everyone is so like stuck up and like arm's length away from each other, and I heard that when Western audiences first watched it, when Elizabeth starts singing, they all started laughing. Because obviously we're not really used to it, and so there's this lovely love song between Gauri,
Gauri, Elizabeth and Bhuvan,
and then Elizabeth sort of joins in with the English side of it, and it is quite strange, but I didn't find it particularly funny. I don't know what you thought about it.
I thought it was wonderful. I think personally, if we are going to mix the British culture with the Indian culture, to factualize what truly happened in history, then that is the best way to do it. To show the two different styles of dancing with a female and male partner. When you have Bhuvan and Gauri dancing to Rata Kaise Na Jale, and then you have Elizabeth and what she would imagine her love to be for Bhuvan, you just can't help but feel that completeness with the audience. So if you didn't have that section of the film, I don't think the Western audience would truly be able to understand the context of love and how universal love is, irrespective of religion and culture. Yeah,
that's such a good point. That's so lovely.
I think another thing that we should touch on is the introduction of a character by the name of Kachra. So Kachra, they're still in Bhuvan's search to find a full team for his cricket group. They come across an untouchable by the name of Kachra.
Yeah,
who is picking dirt. He's picking up trash. He's an untouchable.
Is that like a thing?
Yes. So in Indian culture, untouchables do exist, and because there is a caste system in India, those who have relatively what we would consider low income or very minimal way of living, or incredibly like low salaries, they would be considered as untouchables, or those who have like a human disabilities. So Kachra's disability is the disability that takes this team onto an amazing win.
Yeah, he basically wins the game for them.
Yeah. So the beauty about a character like Kachra is that religion ourselves Indian religion teaches you should never ostracize someone for where they come from, their religious beliefs, and who they are as individuals, irrespective of how different they may think, look like, or feel to you. And you have Kachra, who no one wants to be in this team because he is an untouchable. He picks up trash for a living. He's a timid, shy character. No one takes seriously. And Bhuvan is like, no, this guy can spin the ball as he's throwing it. I am not giving up this guy for anything. You can all stick it with all your values. This guy is staying in this team. And if you truly believe in your religion, all this caste nonsense that you guys are thinking, it has to go. We have to change the way that our society thinks. And we're now living in 2000 and coming up to 2020. And I'm so glad that we live in a multicultural, diverse society in which we are so much more open-minded to people with these kinds of disabilities, different, sexual, orientations and things like that. So this film really affirms that that's the way that our society should be going. And even in 1893, they had these dramas. So
it's so interesting.
Yeah, really, really wonderful.
So they started to set up. I thought they were going to go down a route where obviously Elizabeth gets introduced and Gary immediately is like, oh no, a threat to my romance. And I was like, no, don't give me this like woman-hating woman subplot. But then they kind of don't. They don't do it at all. Elizabeth is incredibly supportive of her, and she's very lovely towards her. She's very oblivious towards her feelings towards Bhuvan. And then as soon as Gary gets like particularly jealous, Bhuvan immediately is like, but it's you I love. Like, there's no dicking about, there's no like wasting time. He's just immediately like, I love you, you idiot. Like, why are you jealous? Like, and then they kind of get together, and I was just like, how satisfying to not have to waste time with like women hating women and this idiot man not realizing blah 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 blah. No, like, he's very mature and very like open and emotive, and it was just so lovely because then it just meant that we could focus on other stuff.
Yes,
that was more important. Than their relationship is a very good crux of this movie, but like it sort of goes without saying. It's like, oh, how lovely, two people that like each other have gotten together, and there's been no real drama behind that, because that drama would be boring, because it's like, let's all just be honest and express our feelings.
Yes,
and they do.
I couldn't agree with that anymore. It's said, especially the Western view of Bollywood films, is so girl meets boy, boy meets girl, they fall in love, and then for some reason the parents don't want them to get married. And I kind of understand why people would think that's the typical architecture for an Indian film. But in this instance, it really isn't. It's more about the way in which Gauri really, really supports Bhuvan and Bhuvan's mindset in making sure that this team succeed. In spite of the village initially beating him up and holding him over the coals for putting the whole village in a very tricky predicament, that if they don't win, a triple tax situation would kill the village's ability to even put food in their stomachs. And you have Gauri, who's going to be standing behind Bhuvan throughout and be like, no, he can do it. I'm with him. I'll go and even meet him halfway during the night just to tap on his shoulder and say, in a very timid style, I just want you to know that I'm with you, and I really like you. Okay, bye. And it's just so cute.
So sweet.
It's very, very endearing.
It's so sweet. It is. Their relationship is so charming and like pure.
Very, 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 very lovely and super pure. And that's just one of the things that you kind of have to appreciate about maybe love back in 1893, when there was no Tinder and no swiping right and swiping left, and we didn't live in massive cities, and we didn't have so much infrastructure as we do now. I think this film really gives me a genuine appreciation of the simplicity of life.
And
this film and human connection, and this film is great at explaining that.
Yeah, amazing. So had you watched it a lot since 2001? Yeah, it's one of those ones that you like top up every year.
I can't stop watching this film. I don't even know why sometimes. I can't stop watching this film, because I really do believe that we need to motivate each other in life, and in order to inspire that motivation, at least for me, I watch this film. Even when I have friends that come over, I asked them to watch the film as well, and they hesitantly say no in the first instance, especially when they find out the duration of the film being 4 hours. And oh my god, this girl's gonna kill me. But they walk away with a sense of understanding a little bit more about Indian culture and the way that Indian people think, so it helps in this regard.
And it's such a gorgeous culture, like it really is. And I know they're obviously shining all the like positivity on it, but like if that's genuinely what it is, like it's so lovely, so forgiving and so open, and so, I mean, their main gods were like two people who were married to different people, but they were so in love that they've been worshipped together this entire time. Like, that's so romantic and lovely, and just the way that faith runs through this film in a way that doesn't inhibit and doesn't judge. It's just something that's like a support system almost for the entire community. I think it's so lovely.
And I think Indian culture and India as itself has so many particularly relies on faith as a support system. It does this through having multiple festivities throughout the year to support the Indian culture, and having different deities which they worship, and they have different festivals surrounding the deities throughout the year as well. And now obviously this is very much pertaining to the Hindu culture as opposed to the Muslim culture, but in the same way in Islam as well, religion is just the backbone to motivate, inspire and support your beliefs to get to wherever you want in life.
Yeah, it's so lovely, and they're always so welcoming. Like the minute someone else is there, they're like, oh my god, of course, join in, like have this thing on your forehead.
I did love the way in the film in which Elizabeth was invited to see the village, and Bhuvan and Gauri did a dance together, and it was a dance on flirtation and passion and jealousy, and I won't spoil it for the guys that are listening. It's a very cute, adorable dance, and that is a real, and you can see Elizabeth's eyes light up and the apples of her cheeks start to glow when she sees this culture of colour and life and light right in front of her eyes, and she just can't let go of it, and especially Bhuvan.
Definitely. And like I was right there with her as well. I was like, this is amazing. Like this is so much fun, and this is so, it's a celebration of life and religion rather than like a punishment, which is what a lot of Western religions seem to feel like.
I think that one thing that I think is really important to focus on is that the casting was done in such a way where they casted British actors, taught them Hindi and made them learn Hindi. Now that is phenomenal. And those British characters, irrespective of whether they were the good guys or the bad guys, you have to give them credit. Hindi is a very difficult language, and to learn Hindi and not change your tone and still say it in a very British way, that's challenging.
It's very impressive.
The cast that supported this film were very cleverly chosen, and linguistically Andrew and some of his teammates who had to also speak Hindi from time to time, and Elizabeth smashed it out of the park.
Yeah. It's so, I mean, she, within this plot of the movie, she learns Hindi like overnight. Like she literally meets them on the cricket pitch and is like, I've no idea what you're saying, I'll see you tomorrow. By the time she's turned up tomorrow, she's like fluent. It was like, wow.
So I'm glad that you noticed that. For me, it was one of the dislikes I had about this film.
Yeah.
And
it was a bit unbelievable.
Yeah, it was a bit unbelievable. And whilst I appreciated that she did have a chauffeur or a butler to aid her in supporting the group, and also secretly meeting with the group to help prep them for the cricket match, you'd only automatically assume as the viewer that he was the one that helped her learn all this Hindi.
Yeah.
But my hat's off to the actors. Phenomenal.
It's
absolutely
so
fantastic. And to also to film in India, in those villages, under such extreme heat.
I was honestly watching the cricket match and I was like, how do none of them have sunglasses on? Like, I would be squinting so bad with the like oppressive sun that's beating down onto this like very barren cricket pitch. This parched
cricket pitch. And you know, like it's I think it's a credit. It's a humongous credit to those British actors that were in that film to undertake a complete 360-degree change for them to what normally the kind of films or theatre work or commercials that they would have done.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think I hope it certainly inspires me as an actor to go out of my comfort zone, to push myself now, having watched those actors. If they can do it, oh my God, anyone can do it. And I hope
just the opportunity and experience to be in a different culture's movie. It's so exciting. It's so cool. The two actors you may know, Elizabeth was in Once Upon a Time. She played Rumpelstiltskin's original wife. That's what I know her from. And Captain Russell I think he's in Archer and that sort of DC TV universe where he plays a sort of doctor character that's recurring across The Flash and Archer and all of these things. From what I can see, I don't watch them, but I feel like some people would not clock him and be like, oh my God, it's him. He's quite prevalent. So they've gone on to do really interesting stuff as well.
And the one thing that I definitely would say to the listeners, especially if you are aspiring actors or actresses within the filming industry, irrespective of whether it's theatre or not, please be open-minded to go and try your hand at a Bollywood film. Bollywood is really, really open nowadays into
isn't it?
But they're open into having Caucasian or even BAME actors and actresses join the team to go into film with them. I went on a film set a couple of days ago where they were looking for a Caucasian actress who could dance, and they were willing to teach these actresses how to speak Hindi and Urdu.
Oh, amazing.
So if you are open-minded, guys,
there's
a whole industry out there for you to open your minds to. It is a little bit different. You have to be patient in that industry, but the rewards are there, and it is fantastic to get your foot in the door and to have something on your acting CV.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I love that.
Yeah, I think. Guys, please try and check out this film on a Saturday or a Sunday during the day or in the evening when
it is so entertaining. Yeah. It's not like one of those movies. It doesn't drag. There's no filler sections.
No,
the plot keeps moving, and you're invested the entire way. It's the tensest cricket match you'll ever watch.
And unlike maybe other Bollywood films, who maybe your friends or family have told you oh my God, it's so diabolical, they're just jumping up and down and they can't act. Yes, those films do really exist in Bollywood, and those are more commercialized films made by very different directors. I would never advise you go and watch those, okay? But do go and check out the films made by directors Sanjay Leela Bansali, Atush Gowakar, who is the director of this particular film, as they give you a real true definition of what Indian culture is like, what those defined relationships of love, passion, and also enemies, what they look like as well. And they don't have that hot Indian girl number which most of the commercial style of Indian movies have. So if you really do want to go and check out an Indian film, this one would be the one to watch. Or please go and have a look at a film by a director called Sanjay Leela Bansali. You will not be unhappy. I promise you this much, guys.
And also, just as a Western audience, I think it's so important. I know that the actor who played Captain Russell, when he was doing the research into his character, he was shocked to find out the treatment of India back in that time, because it's something that was incredibly huge. Queen Victoria was the Empress of India, despite never setting foot in it, but it's something we're never taught about. We're never taught about our colonialist history, and it's so important that we should be.
Yeah.
Because it was a really awful time in our past that, a good percentage of the country seems to be very proud of and is trying to reclaim with things like Brexit. But I think watching these movies really puts it into perspective of look how fucking shit we could be.
I really think that some of these political agendas which our country is currently facing at the moment is to divide us, and with division comes a lot of fall. But this film teaches you that with unity, everyone stands together in a true sense of strength to overcome the future ahead, which would have been a triple tax in that particular instance. Okay, and we as a nation, we should still continue to be as awesome as we are, as open, honest, culturally loving, and cosmopolitan as the United Kingdom is. And please, I don't feel like our country should ever give this up and not allow political agendas to get in the way of the true love that we have for each other and what humanity teaches us about, which is empathy and compassion.
Yeah, well said.
Thank
So
you.
good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much
I
for
really
introducing me
enjoyed
to
it.
this movie.
Very welcome.
I'm going to now introduce it. I already told my dad, I was like, you're going to love it, watch it.
Wow.
Like, it's right up your street.
That is so good. That makes me smile so much because
Yeah.
Indian cinema should be infectious.
It should be, and it will be. Like, this is why things like Netflix is so good, because we finally have an opportunity to like, just casually come across them in a way that like they were never really shown on TV. In the same way that other movies were, so this is a really good opportunity for us to be introduced to the cinema of it.
But, yeah.
It's so good.
Bollywood industry is the biggest cinematic industry at the moment. They churn out maybe 3 times as many films as the Hollywood industry, and their budgets are huge. So when you're looking at a film like Lagaan, the budget for Lagaan was at the time absolutely massive, and that's why Lagaan had won so many awards. And in the same way, if you ever check out films like Padma Tvitiya and films from Sanjay Leela Bhansali, they also had mega budgets, and the sets, the costume designs, everything is just gorgeous. So yeah.
And if you just want to break from superhero movies and remakes as well, there's some really lovely original stories happening.
India is actually, because India's culture is as such, the one thing that they are really good at doing is being very unique with their thinking and with their creativity. And that's the one thing that comes across in some of their films.
Definitely.
Guys, you must go and check out some of their films on
Definitely
Netflix.
do. Definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Do you have anything that you want to plug? Where can we find you on social media?
Yeah, so on my, please, like, guys, if you feel like following me, I'm an actress myself. I work both in the Indian film industry as well as in the British film industry. Please follow me at Nureen LK, so NUREENLK, all together, on Instagram, where you'll find a couple of clips of my acting and mainly motivational and inspirational quotes that really unite us all together. And something that my followers absolutely love are the more motivational style of quotes and posts that I have on my Instagram. So guys, go and check it out. I really am proud of that.
Yay! Thank you so much. Again, I'm so obsessed with this movie now. Like, my housemate kept coming in and I would just be like, it's so good. I'm just having such a great time watching it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I've been Emily Slade. You can find me on Twitter at EmilySlade1, on Instagram at EmilySlade001. Why This Film is on Instagram at Why This Film. We're on Twitter at Why This Film. We are on Facebook at Why This Film Podcast, and you can always contact us at whythisfilmpodcast@gmail.com. But until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
We watched the
film and we talked about it, but now it's time to say goodbye. We'll be back again with another movie that makes you wanna ask why.